is one of the highlights, I would say. Apart from the spring cleaning, but the setting up of lanterns and everything, that's also part of the Chinese New Year. And wow, Jonathan, hello. Long time no see. Good to see you online. Okay, so yes, it was kind of, I said yes to tonight because I was intrigued by the topic, think outside the box. Okay, so let me share screen. Oh, can you give me?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot. Okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna stop sharing first. All right, so think outside the box. I think as the name says it. So I'm hoping tonight we'll have some discussion around this. But before that, maybe maybe we should have read the article before I start sharing. Should we read the article first? Okay. So Marlene, would you like to start?
Some people put themselves in a constant state of restlessness as they fight over benefits, opinions, positions, or power. Such a life is surely unhappy and not carefree. Realistically, nothing in this world is perfect. Flaws are unavoidable. How does one lead a carefree and contented life in a world of dissatisfaction? Here are 4 suggestions. 1. Allow others to be right and be willing to be wrong. Disputes, arguments, and misunderstandings inevitably happen between people. Therefore, people must learn to resolve interpersonal problems in life. Take the following story. One day, Mr. Chang asked Mr. Lee, "Why is it that our family always argues and is unable to enjoy a single moment of peace and quiet, while your family is always harmonious and never seems to quarrel?" "That's because your family is always right and my family is always wrong," answered Mr. Lee. "What do you mean?" "Well, for example, if someone in your family breaks a cup, they wouldn't think it's their fault. Instead, they would immediately blame others for misplacing the cup, to which others would reply, 'You're the one who's careless and broke the cup.' This is why the arguments never stop. My family is the exact opposite. Everyone openly admits their errors. The person who broke the cup would immediately own up to the mistake, and the other person would also apologize for misplacing the cup. Since everyone in my family admits they are in the wrong, naturally we enjoy a harmonious relationship. If everyone can be considerate and empathic by putting themselves in other people's shoes, then conflicts and misunderstandings can be reconciled." Shall I continue, or?
You can pick someone to pass the torch to.
Okay, Luisa.
Number 2, allow others to be great and be willing to be small. A person gains the respect of others through virtue and an honorable reputation, not by conceit and vanity. In Buddhism, there is a bodhisattva named Tadapari Bhuta, or never disparaging. To all who look down upon him, the bodhisattva would reply, "I dare not belittle any of you, for you are all future Buddhas." By having this mentality of allowing others to be great and the willingness to be small, naturally there will be no disputes. For instance, in the story of the five fingers who argued over who is the best, they had not anticipated for the pinky to come out triumphant. Even though the pinky finger is the smallest, it is the closest to the Buddhas and Bodhisattva when a person joins their palms in respect. As can be seen, people who long for greatness may not always achieve it. People who think themselves insignificant are not necessarily so. For the most admirable people are those who are patient, tolerant, and magnanimous. 3, shall I assign or?
Yeah. Can you please assign?
Okay, maybe Peter.
3. Allowing others to have and be willing to go without. Numerous people hope to have more than others and care not if they go without. However, being the only person to have something that nobody else has might incite jealousy and bitterness. How could this possibly be happy? To go without does not mean there is nothing. It means to be without limits, without measure, without exhaustibility, and without balance. In contrast, having something also means having limits, having measure, having end, and having balance. For instance, gold is fought over for its value, and hence it is broken and melted down. Stones, on the other hand, remain intact as they are not as valuable. If we connect with the Dharma in terms of spirituality and morality, we realize that the things that are more valuable in life are without shape and form. Value is not determined by something's appearance, but by how much it has meaning. I'll pass it down to Jerson. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, number 4. Allow the others to be happy and be willing to suffer. Seeking personal comfort and happiness at the expense of the other people be in positions of, but in actuality, they are the ones who benefit. Who can increase to hardship. Sleep, short.
Jason, I think your internet is unstable, so kind of breaking up.
Okay, here. Let me continue. Okay. Conversely, short-sighted people who indulge in laxity looking for a quick fixes are eliminated by the test of time because of inability to handle changes that come their way. To build harmonious interpersonal relationships, it is crucial to allow others to be right and willing to be wrong. Moreover, it is important to allow others to be great and be willing to be small. Allow others to have things and be willing to go without. Furthermore, allow others to be happy and be willing to suffer. By doing so, even with differing opinions or methods of doing things, people will still be able to coexist in harmony and peace. Thank you.
Thank you for the reading from everyone. Okay, so well, tonight, since the topic is think outside the box, okay, just something for fun. Here I have a little think outside the box exercise. Okay, so the day before yesterday, Mary was 7 years old. Next year, she will turn 10. How is this possible?
Okay.
Anyone?
The day before yesterday, it was 7. The day before yesterday, 10.
Maybe the wrong calendar.
The wrong calendar.
It didn't, Chef, it didn't say that which day before yesterday was that 7 years old. So it could be, that year.
Okay. So it's a very logical, there's a logic to it. Okay, so you're slightly close.
Therefore, let me try.
Okay, go Edwin.
The day
Owen.
before yesterday, Mary was 7 years old. So the day before yesterday. So yesterday was Mary's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So the day before, she was still 7. So yesterday she's 8. This
Yeah.
year she will be 9. Next year she will be 10.
Yes, correct. Yes. So her birthday, do you see the answer? Wait, okay. So here's the answer. So today is the 1st of Jan. And then her birthday is on the 31st of December. So that's why she turned 8 yesterday. So then she will turn 9 this year. So therefore next year she'll turn 10. Okay, we'll do another one. Okay, here's this one. So there are 3 people enter a room, but only 2 walk out. The room is empty. Where's the 3rd person?
There's another room connected to it. So that other person did not walk out. He continued to another room, but did not walk out of that room.
Try again.
No?
Yeah, someone said, oh, the 3rd person took the back door. No, that's not the answer still. Anyone? Well, okay, let me give you a hint. This one is kind of playing on words.
Yeah, it's 2 different rooms.
No,
A room,
The
because
room is empty for the 3rd person.
the key word here is walk out. Should I give you the answer? But the 3rd person's being wheeled out. They didn't walk out.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so he's in a wheelchair, so he didn't walk out. He was being wheeled out. So that's kind of just getting you prepared for this kind of like thinking, right? I think what we've just read about these 4 suggestions by Venerable Master, right? It's kind of getting us to think outside the box. Okay, so I thought tonight we'll just kind of share some stories which I find that can demonstrate these 4 suggestions, because I think the concept of what Venerable Master has wrote in this particular article requires some thinking. Okay, so as some of you may know, we have the Bodhi Light Tales where we have different stories every week. So we launched this one. This is in season 1. So outside the box. Okay, so this one, wait, I need to go back to, let me share the actual Bodhi Light stories. Well, we can listen to Venerable Miao Guang share the story. Let me get that up. All right, so all our stories are pretty much on this blog spot. If you just type Bodhi Light Tales, it should come up. So with this one, are you able to hear the sound?
You're listening to Bodhi Light Tales,
Okay,
the podcast
So-
for mindful people on the go.
we'll just have her kind of tell us the story.
Hello, this is Miao Guang. Today's Bodhi Light Tale is Outside the Box. Once upon a time, there was a design studio seeking to recruit a public relations specialist. Craig, the studio director, received over 500 applications. As it proved difficult to select the right candidate, he decided for the first round of interviews to see who could best use lateral thinking to solve problems. During the interviews, Craig explained that as a public relations specialist, applicants would need to respond appropriately to unique problems. The right candidate must know how to manage multiple scenarios well, as one mistake could ruin the reputation of the design studio. After introducing the studio to each applicant, Craig would ask, "You see a ladder that's 10 feet in length. It's hanging off a boat. The last 2 feet of it in water. If the sea rises 5 feet, how much of the ladder remains underwater?" Most applicants answered 5 feet or 8 feet, which was wrong. Craig, always polite, explained the right answer to them. If the sea rises, so does the boat, and so the length of the ladder remaining underwater stays the same. The right answer is 2 feet. Thank you for coming in. With this question urging lateral thinking, he was able to filter most of the applicants. For the second round of interviews, Craig thought of another question to ask the applicants, which was, "What does the idiom 'kick away the ladder' means to you? And why would someone do that?" Most of the remaining applicants provided typical answers, such as, "It means people getting what they want and then throwing away whatever or whoever was helping them." Craig would simply nod and said to the applicants, "Thank you for coming." Displeased with this answer, Craig sighed and thought, "Is there anybody out there with real creativity?" He signaled his secretary for the next applicants to come in. "Next, we have Kate Freeman," said the secretary. Craig welcomed Kate and asked his question. "What does the idiom 'kick away the ladder' mean to you? And why would someone do that?" Kate replied, "Imagine you're being chased by someone. You've just used the ladder to cross a river. Wouldn't you remove the ladder to stop them from following you?" Craig laughed and said, "Excellent. Thinking outside the box. I like it. You're hired." As Craig was about to dismiss the other applicants, his secretary came in with one more application. "Craig, I'm sorry, but there's one applicant highly recommended for our finance department. His name is Herman. Would you be willing to interview him?" Craig shrugged and said, "Why not? Ask him if he can come tomorrow first thing." The next day, Herman came in with a big smile, and Craig signaled for him to take a seat. Craig asked his question, "What does the idiom 'kick away the ladder' mean to you? And why would someone do that?" If you're working as a team, you would remove the ladder so that your team members could use it to cross the next river. Either way, the team could break down the ladder and use the materials to build something else they might need for the future. Craig, amazed, clapped his hands and said, Very well said. That was the most creative, team-oriented answer I've heard. How would you feel about being our new creative director instead? This story highlights the importance of creativity. Creativity enriches society. It leads individuals to elevate all aspects of our daily lives, whether it be sports, the arts, entertainment, jobs, and much more. As we generate new ideas, life is filled with even more energy, color, and zest. We often find inspiration through the realization of such ideas. And the outcome of our creativity often leads us to discover our true potential. Creativity can be viewed as thinking without limits, being courageous in challenging traditions, and going beyond the past without constraints. When a workplace embraces creativity, we often see increased problem solving, team diversity, and effective teamwork. Creativity also enables the formation of new perspectives on established norms. For example, in the past, children's education was mainly done through tough discipline and criticism. Today, there's been a shift towards educating our children through encouragement and critical thinking. There is a saying, "Fish blowing bubbles break the stillness of the water." This means the continuous impulse in elevating our existing work methods to achieve innovative results. Creativeness, happiness, motivation, and hope are endless sources of energy, fueling us on our path of transformation. Not everyone is born with creativity, but it can be developed and cultivated through practice. Making a conscious effort to learn new things and to never fail to try, we can teach our minds to embrace creativity and gain a further step on the path to wisdom. Just as Venerable Master Xing Yun says, "With a creative mind and skillful hands, you can turn trash into treasure. With a creative mind and goodwill, you can turn bad causes and conditions into good ones." This is Miao Guang. Thank you for listening to Bodhi Light Tales. Subscribe to us and have stories delivered to you every week. May your day be filled with happiness and wisdom.
Okay, so that's a story, think outside the box, right? Quite creativity, right? Creative, should I say. As some of you just then, when I asked you about entering the room, you say, well, there's another room, or that the person took the back door, or, right? So all of these is also a creative thinking. So in this article, Venerable Master, in a way, get us to think slightly in different ways to what we usually think, right? So for the first one, where he says, let me share my, So for the first one, oh, my numbers, I didn't change my numbers, but so ignore the numbers. So the first one where he says, allow others to be right and be willing to be wrong. The second, he says, allow others to be great and be willing to be small. Allow others to have things and be willing to go without. And then allow others to be happy and be willing to suffer. So in the Chinese, for the first one, allow others to be right and be willing to be wrong is 你大我你对我错, right? The second one is 你大我小. And then the third one is 你有我无. And then the fourth one is 你乐我苦. So there are different stories for each of them that I will cover tonight. But with the first one, there's also a YouTube that I can share with you guys. So this story is also our Bodhi Light Tale story.
You're listening to Bodhi Light Tales, the
Are you able
podcast
to-
for mindful
are you able
people
to see
on the
it?
go.
No, Sefo.
No? Oh, oops.
Hi,
Wait.
today's Bodhi Light Tale.
Mhm. Are you able to see the YouTube? Yeah.
Is
Yes, Master. It's
3
visible
times
now.
8. Once upon a time, there lived a man named Yan Hui, who was among the 72 disciples of Confucius. Yan Hui was praised by his teacher for having the virtues of a noble man. He was strict in discipline, always open to advice from others, unconcerned about fame and wealth, and diligent in his cultivation. One day, Yan Hui went into town to run some errands. As he walked past a fabric shop, he heard the shopkeeper arguing with a customer. "I already told you it will cost $24 for 8 meters. The customer yelled in reply, "No, 1 meter costs $3, so 8 meters should be $23. Why should I pay you 24? Yan Hui couldn't contain himself. Feeling the need to stand up for the shopkeeper, he said to the customer, "Excuse me, sir. I think you got it wrong. 3 times 8 is 24, so you should pay him $24. The customer stared and pointed his finger angrily at Yan Hui. "Who are you? You have no business interfering in this negotiation." Then, having recognized Yan Hui as one of Confucius' disciples, the customer continued, "If anyone is qualified to settle this matter, it would be your teacher, Confucius. Actually, why don't we go together now and ask him?" Yan Hui looked at the shopkeeper, who nodded in return. Turning back to the customer, Yan Hui said, "All right, let's go. But what if Confucius says you are wrong? What will you do then? If I'm wrong, then I will offer you my head. But what will you do if you were wrong?" The customer replied. Yan Hui answered, "If I'm wrong, then you can take my hat, which my teacher gave to me as a symbol of being one of his best students." When they arrived at Confucius' place, Yan Hui first explained the situation to his teacher. When he was finished, Confucius smiled and said to Yan Hui, "You lost. 3 times 8 is 23. Now give this man your hat." Speechless upon hearing the verdict, Yan Hui nevertheless did exactly as instructed out of his respect for his teacher. However, in his mind, he still wondered why his teacher would make such a decision. "Is my teacher getting old and confused?" Yan Hui thought. Feeling lost and unsettled, Yan Hui decided to make up an excuse to go home for a few days. As he went to bid his teacher goodbye, Confucius knew exactly what was going on, but he simply decided to let him be, and only gave Yan Hui the following parting words: "Though an ancient tree, one shall not stay under it. Furthermore, do not act upon killing someone unknown." Yan Hui nodded and replied, "Yes, master." On his way home, clouds gathered, the sky quickly darkened, and a thunderstorm was heard in the distance. Yan Hui hurried and hid under an ancient tree with a hollow trunk. At that precise moment, he remembered his master's words, though an ancient tree, one shall not stay under it. He quickly stepped away from the ancient tree. As he did, lightning struck, and the tree exploded in 2 pieces. Yan Hui, shocked by what just happened, decided to waste no time getting home. Soon he arrived home, and as it was near midnight, and he did not wish to disturb his wife, gently opened the front door. When he entered the bedroom and saw 2 people sleeping in bed, he was furious. He reached for his sword, but at that moment, he remembered his master's words again. Do not act upon killing someone unknown. He left his sword and lit a candle. To his surprise, the 2 people sleeping were his sister and his wife. Yan Hui felt ashamed and decided to go back to his master to apologize and express his gratitude. Upon hearing what happened, Confucius said, I am glad you have returned safely. I knew exactly why you wanted to go home. Let me ask you a question. What is most important to you? Your life or your hat? My life, of course, Yan Hui answered. His master continued, You are right. When I said 3 times 8 is 23, you lost only your hat. But had I said 3 times 8 is 24, then the customer would have lost his life. The moral of this story is to remind us that in this world, there is no absolute right or wrong. It is only a matter of stance and perspective. Sometimes in life, between right and kind, we need to choose kind. Just like Yan Hui and the customer in this story. Who is really right? And who is really wrong? 3 times 8 is commonly accepted to be 24, for it is based on the principle of mathematics. However, to Confucius, it is 23, for he saw it from a perspective of what is truly most important, a life of others. Most of us have the tendency to jump to conclusions, dealing with things without thorough and wise consideration, more concerned with what we lose rather than gain, thereby hurting others and even ourselves in the process. Before making any decision, we should ask ourselves, what is most important, your life or your hat? Just as Venerable Master Xing Yun says, he who creates a win-win situation is a true negotiator. He who helps others succeed develops utmost affinity.
Well, I shared these 2 stories. In a way, Confucius is also thinking outside the box when he said, it is 23. Because usually, I think this idea of when others are right and I'm wrong, naturally, most of us will probably be like Yan Hui, saying, Master, how can you say that, right? So with these 2 stories, maybe you have some thoughts. So I'm going to pause sharing the stories and just hear a little bit from you. I'm aware it's already 8:36. So let's have some discussion about this. You are right and I'm wrong. Okay. Anyone have any thoughts?
Oh, gosh. um,
Did you want to share?
Actually, like, I just want to share, like, For my opinion, how can we, or I just want to ask, like, how can we be like, for example, if someone will gonna try to offend us, or someone to offend, and then in my side that I am the right person in the situation, my decision is correct, but the other is not, and and that person is angry, and how can we win back those type of situation, Ashi?
Hmm. Is this someone you know, or is this like a stranger and then suddenly they just like abusing you?
Usually in our office, in our customers as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, if it's a customer, I think there's a saying, customer is always right. So I think you kind of run into a kind of like a dilemma. So I guess, one thing is like we need to recognize the condition, right? We talk about 因缘, like the causes and conditions. So it really depends on the actual situation that you're in. If you're saying that this is your boss yelling at you, or is this a colleague yelling at you, or is this a customer yelling at you, I think all these examples, the situations, how you would respond would very much depend on who is that person yelling at you. There's no right or wrong answer, of course. But in this aspect where Venerable Master says, you are right, I'm wrong, it cannot be applied to all situations. But I think what it raises is our attitude of, like in the article, like that family, where when someone breaks a cup, they'll say, oh, I'm sorry, I must have not put it at the right place. Hence, it caused this disaster to happen. So there's someone that kind of takes the blame for how things happen. But having said that, it's not that when someone yells at you, you always kind of like take the blame for their anger. First, I guess we need to recognize that whether or not the person really has an anger issue, right? If they have anger issue, I think if you kind of know that they're having a bad day, maybe you stepped on their toes without realizing, then I think for me, I may not agree with how they are handling their own emotions, but I probably would not go and confront them too much in that moment, because anything you say may just kind of like flare things up. It's kind of like adding water to fire, So I would probably choose more silence than anything else. But that's just me. But it really depends on that situation. So you haven't given me a lot of details as to, that situation. But when we talk about this kind of you are right and I'm wrong, I guess a lot of times, even though the person has anger, it really depends on, if we can take away the tone, we can take away the energy, and really listen, what are they saying or what they are not saying. If it's about my work and then they're yelling at me for not doing a good job, then maybe it is my fault. It is partly my fault for not doing a good job at what I'm supposed to do. But the way they express it may not be always the right way, should I put it? Right? They use anger to express how angry they are for not meeting their expectations. But if we can hear the message of, and then reflecting, have I really done a good job? Have I really done a thorough job? Or maybe I have missed out on some things. That serves more the purpose for me on my end, right? So if it's at me, but if it's really kind of after thinking about it, reflecting on it, that apart from me, they're also yelling at another person, then maybe it's really not about me anymore. You know, I mean, they really just having a bad day. So I think all of these are things you can consider, I think, in the moment of why somebody is having that kind of anger. I don't know if this help. Jason?
Yeah, thank you, Pastor.
Mm. Yep, Peter?
Just a really quick example.
Mhm.
So today I called up a bank in Australia and I said, I want to open an account. And she said, you can't open an account because you're currently residing in Taiwan. I said, no, I'm only temporary here. All my details are still in Australia. And she says, no, you're residing in Taiwan. I said, no, I'm not residing in Taiwan. So here lies the conflict. Is she right or am I wrong? Right. In the end, I was thinking like, I don't want to get in an argument. So and I said to her, so I'm going back to Australia this year. Let me open an account then. Would that be okay then? So instead of arguing over whether my residency is really in Taiwan or is my residency really in Australia, I wanted to figure a better way. And then that's what I did. I think kind of matches what we were talking about just now.
Mhm, mhm. Taking a step back, right? Because I think the moment when you realize that, you know what, it really doesn't really matter because it's not the point of where I live, but the point is I need to open an account, right? This also happened a few days ago where we had the Buddha's wedding at the Buddha Museum. Okay, so as venerables, you know, we have to do the Dharma instruments. So the person who's doing one of the Dharma instruments, it's her first time. So, and you know, Dharma instruments, there's always the way that you're supposed to hold it, and there's always the right way. So this person obviously was holding it the wrong way. So after being corrected, everyone's just like, so she's trying to find out, she knows that she hasn't held the instrument correctly. So she was trying to find out, okay, please tell me what is the correct way. But all the comments was just like, you did it wrong. You know, you were holding it too high. And she's like, yeah, I know, but just so what is the right way? It's like, no, how did you hold it the first time? The first time you were holding it too high. It's like, and I couldn't stand it. So I was next to her. I was like, can you just stop telling her what she's doing wrong? Can somebody just tell her what's the right way? So it's exactly this kind of, it's like, okay, yes, just tell me the right way and stop telling me what I did wrong, but which is often the case, right? So it's a bit like this conversation that she got into, that you don't live in Australia, so you can't open an account. Well, point is I need to open an account, right? So as long as we go back to our purpose, right? Somebody needs to take a step back. Like for you, you go, okay, it gets to the point, I'm just going to take a step back and just say, okay, maybe I'll just sort all this out when I'm physically in Australia instead of doing it online, right? Okay. Okay, well, why don't we, while you guys are still thinking, but I kind of want to go into the other ones, because I think this one is relatively easy to understand, okay? But the one that allow others to be great and be willing to be small, it's kind of similar, right? Similar on this to be right and wrong. Because, you know, like if you think others are better than you, maybe not better than you, I shouldn't say better than you, but if you can put yourself not having a big head, you can put yourself kind of like, the smaller you can put yourself, the ego in a way, right? It's probably you go a long way. I think in a nutshell, that's. But I don't know about you, but I find the third one and the fourth one may not be so easy to get. It's like, let others have, and I will go without. Right? Often we want to be the one to have it. Right? So There is another story of the Bodhi Lighthouse, the cookie fight. I don't know if you guys ever heard about this story of the cookie fight? No? Okay, well. So maybe just very quickly. Ube, can you read this one, please?
Cookie fight. Once upon a time, a married couple received a gift from their neighbor. It was a box of homemade cookies. They were so fresh and smelled delicious. The couple just couldn't wait to open the box. One after another, they enjoyed the crunchy cookies. Soon, they were down to the last one, and they both reached out to take the last cookie at the same time. However, either of them was willing to let go, and so the husband came up with the idea of a competition. Whoever was better at meditative concentration could remain in silence the longest would get the last cookie. In other words, whoever spoke first would lose, and the winner would have the last cookie. His wife agreed, and so the competition began. Both sat still, facing each other, looking into each other's eyes, and one could barely hear them breathing. Deep into the competition, a thief entered their home. The thief had had his eyes on their home for a long time. As he looked through the window, he saw two people sitting and staring at each other. At first, he was confused and stumped. But after observing them for a little while longer, he realized neither of them even moved an inch. So he decided to make his move and enter the house. The thief began his search for anything valuable. As he went around the house, both the husband and his wife still persisted in their competition. Neither of them even bothered to speak up. The thief moved closer to the wife and said to her, "Look what we have here, you pretty little thing." The thief then touched her face, but the wife stubbornly kept silent and refused to move as she wanted the cookie so badly. Since she didn't react at all, the thief decided to push her further by touching her again. The wife waited to see if her husband was going to do something about it, but he did not budge at all. The wife suddenly became furious, and finally, before the thief could finish his second tour of the house, she stood up and shouted at her husband, "What kind of a husband are you? Don't you see the thief that is stealing our things? He even assaulted me right in front of you. Are you not going to do anything about it? Am I that worthless to you compared to this piece of cookie?" To her complete shock and utter disbelief, her husband snatched the cookie and said proudly, "Ha! You spoke first, you lost. The cookie is mine," and right in front of her ate the last piece of cookie. This story shows us that sometimes, due to our eagerness for temporary gain, we lose our most basic values. This is sadly a common mistake people have made. We lose our ability to think logically and act compassionately just over personal gain. We like to win, fighting to get the last word and demanding things go our way. Some even go to the extreme of killing and hurting others. If we stop for a moment and think, what is our intrinsic worth? Is it in fighting over who gets the last word? Or is it a matter of face value? What exactly is the value of fighting for the last piece of cookie? We need to learn what is important and what is not, and recognize the true value and merit of things. We could begin to discern logically and wisely by letting go of our discrimination. Only then can we find balance and take full control of our lives. As Venerable Master Xing Yin says, the deepest desire is the hardest to quench. Ignorance brings the deepest darkness. Hatred causes the worst resentment. Jealousy causes the greatest hindrance. Transform stupidity into wisdom. Banish ignorance to gain enlightenment. Avoid bad to be good. And abandon delusion to seek the truth.
Well read.
Thank you, Shifu.
Any thoughts about this story? When before Venerable Miao recorded this story, she only just read it, and then she suddenly just stood up. She's like, she should just divorce him. Yeah. Okay, so with this story, right, it's like to go without. So we can see that nobody wants to be the one that loses out, especially when it's something you really, really desire for, like the cookie, right? So it's about letting others have what you really want. Okay. So because of time, let's just move on to the next one. The next one, which is the allow others to be happy and you suffer. Okay, so with this one, I would like to share Venerable Master's story. So this, as you can see, this photo is very, very old, right? This is 1970, okay? Some of us, way before some of us are born.
The year I was born, Shifu.
The year you were born. Yes, so this, in Fo Guangshan, back in those days, they used to have summer camps, okay? So there's this one that on the first day of the camp, what happened was the water pump motor, the actual machine, the engine actually broke. And then the technician was called in to try and fix it. And he kept working till like late into the night by about 1 a.m., but he still couldn't fix it. And then he said to Venerable Master, he says, well, I need to go back and get some spare parts for the engine, but I'll be back later. But Venerable Master was very smart because he knows that if he lets him go, he's probably not going to come back. So Venerable Master says, well, okay, why don't I go with you? So he actually followed him back, but he says, oh, you know what? Actually, let me just try again. Maybe I can try again. So he was trying to use that as an excuse to like leave. But Venerable Master was very smart that he was doing that. So for the rest of the hours, Venerable Master just stayed with him while he was working. And as the night, the hours just kept, the hours went by. And then nothing still worked. And it was at that moment that the Venerable Master, still worried, he actually, so he actually made a vow in that moment while in the midst of that, because he thought about all these people. Imagine you have a summer camp, you have all these people. The first thing that you wake up, you want to do in the morning is brush your teeth, wash your face, and get ready, right? Go toilet and everything. But without water, how are these people going to do that? So it was at that moment that he made a vow. He says that if there were no water, I am willing to transform my blood into water. May there be running water for everyone at the monastery. Okay. So I think this story actually really demonstrates that Venerable Master is like, okay, I'm willing to suffer for the benefit of others. So I offer you joy. Well, even if it's difficult for me, but it's okay. So I think this allow others to be happy and then you suffer is kind of the spirit of a bodhisattva, right? A bodhisattva who is willing to put themselves even at risk, right, for the benefit of others, right? Maybe we don't, well, I mean, of course, we don't have to go to the extent of what the bodhisattva does, but I think there are times when I'm sure we're willing to do that step further for others, right? So anyone who have any thoughts about any of these four that any of you would like to share? So the key
The
take.
hardest for the four, I think, Shifu, is willing to suffer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The last one reminded me of a Siji in Sydney who once said she's got like disc protrusion, so she's in a lot of pain. And when she's in a lot of pain, she says that she prays that since she's already in a lot of pain, give me all the pain of all sentient beings, and I'll take it. And I heard, I was very touched, and I'll try and apply and see what happens in the future. But yeah, thank you.
Thanks. I think there is, while I mean, yeah, illness. Some people, it's a way to, like the bodhisattva who says, okay, may the pain be on me and not on others, right? So, or even in doing something. So if say you are in charge of a task, right? If this is an event or this is a task that somebody else will do after you, like this time you're in charge, but maybe next time it'll be someone else. But if you can do your documentation well, so that people don't have to go through the same mistakes that you make, or the struggles that you went through, right? If you can document the so-called the right way or the easier way, right? And you pass that on to somebody else so that they don't have to, figure it out, right? So that's also a way of offering others that kind of convenience, right? Any others? I mean, it doesn't have to be, or just any thoughts about this article, because I think this article is, at first I kind of got you guys thinking about lateral thinking, think outside the box. But I think in a way, Venerable Master is trying to get us to do that, is it not? Because naturally, we all we wish to be right, right? And we wish to have things. We're the ones that want to have things. We get very angry when everyone else have it and we don't, right? If you're the only one that doesn't have something, you'll be very upset, right? And we also want to be happy. Like Ube says, it's very difficult that you want to be the one to suffer. However, Venerable Master, through these four suggestions, he actually tells us to do the opposite, right? Doing the opposite to what you naturally think you would do is thinking outside the box. Because in a way, your natural habitual tendency would want you to do those things. But now he's saying, no, you do the opposite, right? By doing the opposite, in a way, you are actually letting go of the self. We're practicing selflessness. Be less of yourself, right? And the more we can shed off this attachment to the self, the more we can actually be closer to liberation, right? Often we put ourselves into situations where we cause ourselves more suffering because of that attachment to the self. So maybe with these 4 suggestions that Venerable Master gives us, that we can all try and do this. It's New Year. It's good New Year's resolutions, right? You don't have to do all 4. You can just pick one. If you can do one, I think that's already very, very well done, right? So any other thoughts? Anyone else that would like to share? Just last, I mean, you know, it's already 9 o'clock. The 1 hour just kind of like zoom past very quickly. Marlene, would you like
Well,
to share?
Yeah, but the last one, you know, you will suffer for others. I think for mother, they always have this attitude, you know, they're willing to suffer for the children and they never complain. It's for somebody whom you love, it's easier. But for somebody you may not know, that needs to be, you know, to be, how would you say, we have to develop that kind of, you know, the great compassion for others. But, you know, for our own children and family members, I think it's a lot of people demonstrated that it's easy. But then this one thing is like, we talk about, you know, letting go of the ego. But then lately I have heard also some people keep mentioning about self-compassion. So how does this, you know, contradict to like the topic that we're just discussing about, you know, you're giving everything away for others? But how about the self-compassion? Like lately I've heard this topic of self-compassion coming up in a lot of discussion.
You know, I once said, you know how when we talk about selfless, what are you less self of if you don't understand yourself? What do you want to be less of when you are unsure about that self? When we say selfless, right? But if you don't understand that self, how can you be less self? Does that make sense? So it really depends. There are people who really understand themselves in the sense that they really are sure about what they want in life. They strive for it and they keep going and going and going, right? So the idea of thinking about others, right? Thinking about giving to others, they know how to give to themselves, but maybe they don't really usually give to others. Then we need to actually tell them this kind of idea. But I think you're talking about this kind of, so if I can make a very, very general statement, those people who just don't think about anyone else but themselves, those are very much in that self-ego. But the self-compassion part is, you know, there are people who only give to others. Only give to others and they don't never give anything to themselves, right? So in a way, yeah, they're very selfless, but you know, they're burning their own oil to the very last drop, right? So in a way, we're talking about these people probably need some compassion for themselves. They really know how to give others some compassion, but they don't know how to give to themselves. So I think, you know, when we hear these, it really depends on the context. Right. Some people really need to be told that they need to be less self of themselves. But whereas some people we need to tell them, hey, you need to think about yourself. Right. So it really depends on the nature of that person, because we need to draw a balance of the two.
So for short, we practice the middle path.
Yes. Yes. Right. Because there's also that the idea of, we say that if you don't know how to be compassionate to yourself, you don't really know how to be compassionate to others. Just like if you don't love yourself, you won't really love
Yeah.
others. Sure, you can love others to learn how to love yourself, right? Sometimes we need to learn to be compassionate to others. But I think only you would know what your intention, right? Because what's driving you to love others or to be compassionate to others, only you would know that's driving you, right? Are you trying to get something from them, or are you truly, right? But I think there will be a difference that we always say is you should love others as how you love yourself, or you love others and yourself. Right. The two needs to be there. You can't just love others and not love yourself. You can't just love yourself and not love others. Right. Like you said just then, like a mother, because it's your own children, you know how to love them. But if we kind of elevate our own thinking, that you see other people's children like your own children, you see other people as your own family, which is like the Buddha. The Buddha really didn't see, the reason why he went off and renounced is because he saw that, yes, I need to find this way out of suffering, because it will happen to my family and will happen to everybody else, right? He didn't just think about his own family, he thought about everyone, right? So sure, we practice giving to our own children, but when we need to actually transfer that to more people slowly, all right? Extending that love, which is what Venerable Master tells us to elevate, right? Our love to all beings, right? That's kind of like the ultimate, that you see others just like yourself. There's no you and me. There's just us, right? Well, it's 9:10, so if there's others that any burning words that you want to share, otherwise you won't be able to sleep tonight. If not, well, thank you for coming online. I hope you have some key takeaways from today's discussion. So shall we do the transfer of merits? Let me stop share.
So po, I'll share my screen for the dedication of merits.
Sure. Thank you. Thank
you
you,
very much, everyone.
everyone.
Thank you very
And
much,
everyone,
Evelyn
turn on your
teacher.
video for
Thank you so
pictures.
much.
Anyone else can turn on your video. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more lotus flower. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much, everyone. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank
Thank
you.
everyone. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you, Rainbow
Um,
teacher.
remember